everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Who's Corner. Yes, after a long hiatus doing unboxing and trying sodas, I am back with the fourth drama in Paul Mcgann's tenure as the Doctor. So real quick, why has this taken so long? Well, I fell into a kind of a deep funk when it came to doing these, and though I had the illustrations finished quite some time ago, I just couldn't get back into the groove of writing the script. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't a bad audio, far from it. It's one of my top 10 favorites, but managing to just sit down and type out a script is so boring, especially with my ADHD. However, I am back with Doctor Who, A Minuet in Hell. As we begin, A Minuet in Hell is long, longer than the first three we've reviewed, clocking in at around 2 hours and 10 minutes, give or take. This was one of my preferred audios for long car rides to see my sister years ago. Now I have collections like Ravenous and The Time War to fill that void. We start off with the Doctor chanting to himself, talking about the legends of Gallifrey. They speak of a world of misery, pain, and death. Hell. He struggles to find a way of escaping the hell surrounding him. Flames, a hulking behemoth appearing out of the fires, a demonic voice yelling, chanting, "Hellfire!" Well, after a while, this starts to annoy someone close to him. Watching him closely in a locked cell, the man asks him if he is going to keep jabbering all night. The Doctor asks him if they are in hell, and the man replies, no, at least they might be closer than they realize. Suddenly, the Doctor sits up and yells out a name, Charley. Charley, meanwhile, is sitting alone on a bed surrounded by women and young girls. One comes around and asks if she can sit beside her. Charley at first doesn't respond. The other woman sits down and pokes her into responding. Charley tells her that she can't even remember her name or how she got here. The other girl introduces herself as Becky Lee from Los Angeles, and then tells her how she got caught up in all of this. First saying it was around 4 a.m., bad part of town, birds dropping dead from air pollution, young girl stumbled around in an old Victorian-era gown, a big bus pulls up next to her, two men grab her and take her here. When Charley asked about her, Becky Lee replied that two men shot at her while she tried to escape their capture. They were the police, she adds sadly. Before anything else is said, a stern-looking woman enters and introduces herself as Dr. Dale Pargita, or as she calls herself, Superior Mistress. She informs the girls that they are now hired employees of the newly created state of Malebolgia. Now, let's just kind of go off on a tangent here. Malebolgia, in my head, it's not really said what state seceded from the Union to make this state. I, in my illustration, decided to cut Texas pretty much in half and created Malebolgia from that. She offers them housing, food, and water, medical checkups, and protection. Basically, these poor souls have been employed as hostesses, sex slaves, prostitutes, and as of this point, they have no rights or statuses. Their job is to tame the members of the Hellfire Club by dancing, wearing costumes, and accepting punishments if the men feel it rightly deserves. Once the Doctor has left, Becky Lee tries to get Charley's attention, but Charley realizes that she hasn't come here alone. She had arrived with someone, a doctor. Now, here is why this drama is one of my top 10 favorites. We meet one of Doctor Who's classic characters, Brigadier Alistair Lethbridge-Stewart, voiced by the legendary, and sadly no longer with us, Nicholas Courtney. Waiting patiently in a crowd of eager people, someone loud and obnoxious pushes through them and bumps into him. Not too eager of who it is, Alistair says hello to Walter Pickering, the senator from the state of Malebolgia. Walter returns the greetings, and Alistair replies, or asks him why that he's watching a political opponent make a speech, to which Walter replies, someone might assassinate him. The crowd erupts into a frenzy as a sleazy fat man wearing the standard Man of the Lord attire, fingers probably covered in ugly gold rings, marches out in front of a podium. This man, Elijah Brigham Dashwood, tells everyone that they are now a new state, America's 51st state. The crowd erupts with cheers and everyone starts chanting, "Dashwood for governor!" But he claims to them saying that this meeting isn't about that. Well, not yet. But he announces the opening of the new Dashwood Institute, where Malebolgia sick, mental, and criminal can be cleansed and transformed into a whole new person, taking away the negative thoughts and desires and morphing them into a well-mannered, charitable person of society. Everyone applauds, except for Waldo, who mocks Dashwood. Dashwood, being unfazed, asks both Waldo and Alistair to accompany him and his partner to the Institute, perhaps to change his mind. Inside the new institute, Dr. Pargita takes Alistair, Waldo, and several members of the media around the medical rooms and shows them the PSI 859 facsimile regenerator. With this machine, the doctors will be able to reanimate a brain even after it has died. Alistair asks if this machine is similar to the British Mach 5 model, and Dr. Pargita replies that yes, several scientists studied the British version but greatly improved it. They claim that they can take a patient with mental problems, download their brain patterns on a floppy disk or flash drives. Then once finished, the new body will have the brain patterns returned and they will be better than before. Waldo asks a rather mocking question, and it's where they are storing the real loonies in this place. Dr. Pargita takes everyone down into the holding bay, where Waldo gets overly excited, abnormally excited. Here she points out a dog burner, a gay axeman, and a one-legged woman who is a murderer, basically. Dr. Pargita finds an unknown and introduces himself as Gideon Crane, a journalist from the London Torch. When asked why he's there, Dr. Pargita doesn't know, as his attitude is very polite and lucid. When suggested that he might be sane enough to leave, Waldo grabs the identification chart and starts spatting that he ran naked last night, howling at the moon. He goes off on a rant saying soft people are just going to let out hardened criminals and that they should be subjected to torture and the introduction of the chair. At this point, Alistair has had enough and orders the man to give back the doctor's papers and calm down. Waldo suddenly comes to his senses and asks to be excused. He and the rest of the media vacate the room, while Dr. Pargita thanks the Brigadier for his assistance, and just before they depart, the doctor comes up to the bars and begs for help. Alistair asks about him, but the doctor once again has no information on him as well. The doctor points at the Brigadier and says that he knows him, but Alistair replies that they haven't met. Alistair remarks at how intelligent the man's eyes look. Gideon Crane suggests that he could look after him until something can be done to help. Dr. Pargita agrees, and Alistair follows her back to the elevators, leaving the doctor in a confused daze. Crane tells him that no one can help him. The doctor asks him who he is, and Crane replied that he is the man with the big blue box. Back in the institute, Dashwood asks why everyone looked frightened and shaken. Dr. Pargita replies that something happened to the senator, and it caused a fuss. Alistair also puts blame on himself, saying that he got too close to one of their patients. He asks if someone can look after Waldo and his, strange behavior. Dashwood waves the man away and remarks to Pargita that he wants her to keep an eye on him. He tried to dig up some information on the Brigadier, but there is absolutely nothing on him until he gets into Scottish politics several years later. Dashwood says that he doesn't trust a man without a past. Back at the hotel room, Alistair types up a report to send to the Secretary of State. I'm really not too sure which Secretary of State he is referring to. His main point is that the PSI machine could be used to improperly lobotomize poor people and could be used as some kind of weapon in future. The message he gets back is to not interfere, but to monitor and wait for further instructions. Alistair is disgusted, but accepts. Afterwards, he delights with a nice southern bourbon. It's a good match. Around this time, both Charlie and Becky Lee have squeezed their bodies into tight 17th century dresses. And when asked about the era of the dresses, Charlie goes off on a history lesson, talking that the Hellfire Club was originally from England, where most of the top government officials were heavily involved in. There was drinking, drugs, women of pleasure, devil worshipping, and the non-stop orgies. When Becky Lee looks concerned for their safety, Charlie shrugs it off by saying that was centuries ago. Things have changed. As the girls are busy feeding and watering the club members, Dashwood gives Dr. Pargita credit on a fine collection of girls that she has found for him. She thanks him and returns to the lab to experiment on someone. Dashwood bumps into Charlie and he immediately finds a sexual interest in her. Back at the institution, Crane eagerly awakens the doctor, informing him that it's time for his lobotomy. The doctor struggles but is strapped down to the gurney while Crane makes Dr. Parchita coffee. He is overcome by a strong fascination to the PSI machine and gets closer to it, even to the caution of the doctor. He starts questioning why he was howling at the moon. As Dr. Parchita turns on the machine, it starts to overload and spark. There's a loud explosion, a blast of light that engulfs both Crane and the doctor. The doctor screams as the light swallows him. So what happens next is up to your imagination. The doctor has a cascade of thoughts and emotions, all rapidly speeding away. Then you have a demonic voice telling him to die, a sexy female voice telling you to look at her, then Charlie's voice pleading for help. At the party, things take a turn when one of the club members grabs Becky Lee by the breast and then goes after Charlie, causing her to deck the guy out. This attack makes the man very angry and prepares to whip Charlie. Just as the men start ripping off her clothes, kind of XXX for Doctor Who, Becky Lee starts a chant and a shield of pure energy wraps around them and the girls. The magic causes the men within the club to go crazy. They start hitting themselves, and then they are sent hurling into the walls, knocking them all unconscious. After the spell ceases, Becky Lee orders the other girls to flee. She helps Charlie to her feet and explains that she is a proud servant of St. Peter and that through him no darkness will prevail. While Charlie goes to get dressed, Becky Lee finds a TV with a camcorder attached. Once the horrible voices and the blinding light vanish, the doctor stumbles directly into several trash cans just outside of Alistair's apartment. He comes out to investigate and remembers the poor soul from the Institute. The doctor tries to explain that he knows him, but he can't form the name in his head. Suddenly, flames erupt around them, and demons start appearing out of nowhere, each one trying to kill the two men. Both the doctor and Alistair retreat. At the same time, Charlie's amnesia veil lifts, and she remembers everything. Well, almost everything. She explains to Becky Lee about the heat of the R-101 and being on a spaceship and partying in Venice. Becky Lee is very skeptical about this, and when Charlie asks her about her story, Becky Lee tells her that her family has traces all the way back in Europe, where her great-great-grandfather chased down a vampire to the States, where it was slain, and then he settled there to hunt more and start a family. Before anything else, Becky Lee suggests that they need help, and when she starts yelling at a house, she is gruffly met with a pissed-off old man named Waldo Pickering, her grandfather. The doctor and Alistair manage to get trapped down an alleyway just as the demons close in around them. Back at the Institute, Crane, still muttering to himself about Gallifrey and a blue box, is led back to his cell while the scientists work on fixing the PSI machine. When Dashwood asks what happened, Dr. Parchita tells him that the machine malfunctioned and that Crane got too close. Her patient escaped in the confusion, and Dashwood tells her that his demons are out there and will end them very shortly. Dr. Parchita demands that the doctor not be harmed, as his brain matrix is vital to the success of the institution and could pave a road of gold for future projects. This causes Dashwood to summon the demon Marcosius and order him to call off his minions immediately. Just as the demons are about to strike, they simply vanish, leaving the doctor and Alistair wondering if they were even there to begin with. Alistair regains his composure and hails a taxi for them, telling the doctor that he is taking him somewhere safe. Unfortunately, it's back to the institution, where the guards take the doctor back to his cell. Dashwood thanks him on his good work. Alistair makes a request to allow him to come visit tomorrow, and Dashwood agrees before telling him to basically buzz off. Once the girls settle in with some coffee, Waldo demands to know what in the world his granddaughter is doing in Malebolgia. Becky Lee tells him that the leaders of St. Peter informed her of a recent demon evokes, and that she came at once to deal with them, but got caught up in the Hellfire Club. She shows Waldo the VHS tape, and immediately the old senator does a little square dance. He tells him that most of the politicians, businessmen, and lawyers are plainly seen in the video. However, Charlie points out that the ringleader isn't present. When asked if he was a fat, dressed as a preacher, and had a big ugly mole on his face, Charlie nods, and the old senator hops for joy. He tells him that he knows the fat pig, and that with this videotape, he can bring Dashwood and this unholy new state down ASAP. With the prospect of winning, both women head upstairs to bed. Alistair makes an inquiry about his demon encounter and requests an immediate response and swift action to be taken against the Dashwood Institute. But the reply back is that demons are not the prime concern for the state's office, and that he is to simply return to monitoring the functions of the PSI machine. Alistair, furious, just turns off the computer. When the Doctor awakens, he is stunned to find Crane back in his cell. Crane laughs it off, telling him that he will be released very soon, but in the meantime they should have a little chat. The Doctor doesn't want to talk, but Crane goes on by asking him who he is. He makes a claim that the Doctor is some kind of alien, space lord, from the planet Chardonnay. The Doctor argues back that he is a Time Lord and it's Gallifrey. Crane also mentions the Vortisaur Ramsay and poor Charlie. The Doctor fights with his scrambled thoughts, trying to fit all the pieces together. The question keeps coming back why he was howling at the moon. Who was howling at the moon? Crane then mentions the TARDIS, and the Doctor remembers. With a grin wide and full of victory, Waldo plays the VHS tape once again, just to make sure Dashwood saw it all. Dashwood, angered and annoyed by this injustice, asks where he obtained this tape. Waldo tells him that it really doesn't matter at this point, and that he should be planning his retreat very soon. Dashwood points out that there is nothing on that tape that incriminates him, but Waldo argues back that once all those friends of his see the contents of the tape, that they will turn on him just to save their own reputations and possibly marriages. Thinking that he has won, Waldo sits back to have a cup of coffee with Dashwood, but finds out too late that Dashwood has spiked it with a paralyzing concoction, rendering him unable to stand, speak, or fight back. By the early morning, Charlie comes down the stairs and informs Becky Lee that everything has fully come back to her, and that her friend the Doctor is missing. With his loyal followers by his side, Dashwood, in a Jim Jones kind of tone, informs them that they are now at war, that the states are trying to stop their progress, but they have now a token that they have at their disposal. Waldo Pickering is then wheeled out to face the crowd. Next to him, Dr. Pagita has the PSI machine ready. Dashwood summons Marcosius from the depths of hell, and once the machine is activated, Waldo's brain matrix gets trapped inside a disc while Marcosius takes residence within the old senator's body. The Doctor argues with Crane that he is the Doctor, but Crane disagrees and informs the Doctor that he is nothing more than a fraud with false memories placed there by the TARDIS when they accidentally landed after dealing with Ramsay. When Waldo returns home, he finds both Charlie and Becky Lee having breakfast. Becky Lee says that she is going to go out and find some answers, while Charlie, who wants to go with her, decides on staying and get some more sleep. Becky Lee asks how it went with Dashwood, and he replies that everything worked out perfectly. She also asks if he had seen any new people come into town recently, and Waldo replies that perhaps she should visit a guy named Lethbridge-Stewart, who might be who Charlie is looking for. Becky Lee departs, leaving Charlie alone with the hungry demon. The Doctor and Crane are still arguing over who is the Doctor. Crane lists every single companion the Doctor has ever had, well, almost, all the way to Susan, who, dear Susan. He tells the Doctor that he isn't the man who abandoned his heritage and gained some revolutionary quest to steal a TARDIS and leave Gallifrey. The Doctor demands to know how he knows this. No one, not even Susan, knew about that. Crane peers into the Doctor's eyes and simply says, "You're not the Doctor, my friend. I am." The Doctor is skeptic about this, saying that he's been telling everyone that his name is Gideon Crane. But Crane replies that in order for someone to sound sane, one must create a story to not sound like a lunatic. Saying that you're a Time Lord to a bunch of doctors might lead you to a chamber full of shock treatments. As Charlie's about to settle into her sleep, Pickering busts down the door, and Charlie immediately realizes that he isn't the kind senator who had sheltered her. So he manages to escape the house and flee into the darkness. Marcosius figures that if he chases after her, the body he's inhabiting might break, so he exits and heads back to the Institute. Alistair is making his normal morning routines, checking his emails, when Becky Lee comes at the door, asking him if he is Dr. Stewart. He tells her that he isn't a doctor. Becky Lee then tells him that she has been sent by Charlie Pollard, and he replies that he doesn't even watch American TV, so he doesn't know the man. Finally, Becky Lee asks him if he had seen any demons lurking about, and this causes the old Brigadier to invite her inside for a talk. Charlie, cold and barefoot, makes her way down the street trying to figure out how to get back to the TARDIS, but the memory of landing is hazy. She remembers landing and seeing a man's face on the scanner, but after that, everything is a blur. She decides that she needs to get back to the place where she and Becky Lee were brought to. Maybe there was some information there that could help her. Becky Lee, driving at high speeds on a motorcycle with Alistair sitting behind her, head to the alleyway where the demons had appeared. She parks and heads further into the alleyway and stumbles upon a big blue box, but doesn't get a chance to tell the Brigadier as he is insistent that they return to the Dashwood Institute. Becky Lee asks him how he got involved in this whole ordeal. Alistair explains that the Global Doom Watch had a tip that in the States someone had copied the British version of the PSI machine and were planning to create designer brains that worried the watch, so they sent him to investigate. Becky Lee, listening, well, sort of, finds scorched scratch marks on the pavement, meaning that they weren't mere projections, certainly demonic in nature. Alistair asks how she knew about him, and that she said that her friend Charlie arrived with a man called the Doctor. Alistair goes white, and then shrugs it off, saying that was too much of a coincidence. He explains to her that he once knew a man called the Doctor, and if he were here now, he'd be able to help them. It dawns on him that the strange man in the cell might have been the Doctor all along. He tells Becky Lee to hop on the motorcycle, as he would be driving. Crane starts asking the Doctor how they landed in the States and why. The Doctor struggles to think until Crane reminds him that all of it started after leaving Venice and going to see Grace. Grace being Grace Holloway from the movie. He goes on to say that when they arrived into the vortex to release Ramsay, Charlie became hesitant. Seeing him as a pet, the Doctor refuses and says that it's better for him to return to his own kind. Ramsay, not ideal to losing his meal ticket, goes berserk, taking flight in the TARDIS, trying to attack them. The Doctor knows the creature's after Charlie, so he cuts himself, leading the beast to the TARDIS doors. Charlie opens them, causing the time flux energy waves of the vortex to swallow the creature, but also interfere with the time around them. In great desperation, Charlie is ordered to press everything on the console, bumping them out of the vortex. Once free, the two struggle to remain conscious. Charlie points out a man on the scanner, but the Doctor feels pain in his head and then blacks out. That's when the two found themselves in the cells. The Doctor still doesn't believe that Crane is the Doctor, so Crane suggests a round of 20 questions. Dashwood, planning his victory song for the governorship, receives a call from Dr. Parchita saying that the new batch of catatonic patients have just arrived and that she is planning to use the Doctor in a second experiment that evening. Parchita had also planned a special romantic dinner for him, but Dashwood turns her down, saying that he needed to watch the big special TV event that night. Parchita, annoyed about being rejected, asks if she should dump Waldo Pickering's memories, but Dashwood refuses, saying that his years of experience might be useful in future. Once Parchita hangs up, Marcosia comes out of the shadows to mock him on Parchita's love for him. Dashwood interjects by saying that it wouldn't look good for the public for a man of the Lord to be romantic with the hired help. Marcosius laughs at this, saying that he isn't a real man of the Lord just because he got his diploma from the back of a cereal box. Furious at this, Dashwood reminds him that he is there to serve him under the blessing of Lucifer himself. Marcosius laughs, but agrees to back off, saying that he's had enough of what he needs. Charlie finally finds the Institute and sneaks inside to have a quick look around. She doesn't get very far when she is spotted by Dr. Parchita, who doesn't at first recognize her from the previous night. Charlie tries to flee, but is captured by Pickering, who is really a demon. Parchita orders Marcosia to take her to the holding area with the new batch of girls. Once the girls are all lined up in front of the camera, Parchita calls Dashwood to look over them. Dashwood immediately recognizes Charley and orders Parchita to segregate her from the others, have her washed and clothed in costume 17. Marcosius finds this rather amusing, as it is the Queen of Hell costume. Sounds like Dashwood plans on marrying the girl. Charley refuses, and Parchita spats that he can't marry her because she loves him. She storms off, leaving Charley alone with the demon. Fearful that she is going to be devoured by him, the demon replies that he is already full. Demons, as he tells her, love a nice piece of meat, but it's raw emotions that really make them full. He orders her to get dressed before his appetite returns. Parchita storms into Dashwood's office, demanding to know what the damn deal is marrying that random girl. Dashwood calms her enough to ask her where she got this anger, and she replies saying that Marcosius told her everything. Dashwood laughs at her, saying that he is a demon. They lie. He isn't marrying the girl. It's a present to Lucifer. He gives her a vial of holy water to use on Marcosius if he gets out of line again. Charley is amazed of how good her body looks in this Queen of Hell costume. Red leather and spiked stiletto shoes. Marcosius is greatly impressed. Charley hopes that the real Pickering isn't enjoying this. He was at least a decent human being who would hate to see how badly the demon is treating his body. She asks him if he's really a demon, which is a good question. Marcosius jumps around the answer at first, but then says basically, what does it matter if I'm a real demon or not? Dashwood likes it, the club members like it. Who cares if he isn't a real demon? They believe that he is, so no harm done. Parchita and her goon squad take the doctor back to the lab, where the doctor insists that he be put back under the PSI machine. But she has to return the original brain pattern, then he'll be cured, but she doesn't listen to him. Outside, Alistair and Becky Lee are granted permission to enter into the institute to speak with Dr. Parchita. Once the gate is open, Becky Lee ducks out of sight and sneaks her way down into the underground cells to search for the doctor. When she finds Crane, he backs up her account and says that he knows the Brigadier and the organization we all know as UNIT. She frees him and says that Charley has been looking for him. Parchita meets with Alistair just as Senator Pickering makes a broadcast about how he is dropping out of the race for governorship, making Parchita very happy and Alistair a little confused. He asks to see the man from earlier that morning, that he is interested in talking more to him, but Parchita replies that he is under heavy sedation in the lab. Becky Lee and Crane know that they have to get to the lab, but with guards and scientists around, that will be impossible. Until Becky Lee spots a fire alarm in the wall. In the lab, the doctor is stunned to find so many patients, all catatonic. He asks why they are there, but Parchita orders the guards to strap him down and hook him up to the PSI machine. The doctor wants that, but he doesn't understand why these other poor people are inside as well. Parchita replies that she is going to spread the contents of his brain pattern across the people next to him, ensuring to create a group of mentally intelligent people. The machine is flipped on. Dashwood greets his fellow members in a ritual where Charley is led out in her new erotic costume, facing Dashwood. He explains to everyone that hell has a sacrifice, a bride to the Lord of Chaos himself. From his breast pocket, Dashwood pulls out a device that looks like a gun, but is something called a Trans-D. Its purpose is to transfigure your soul and mind, and then return you to the actual world, with the soul of a demon within you. Charley protests, but Dashwood fires, and Charley is swept away into the portal. When the light of the machine fades, the patients around the doctor starts waking up and asking who they are. One by one, each one starts introducing themselves as the doctor. The doctor himself agrees that everyone in the universe is the doctor, everyone except him. When Charley arrives in hell, she is greeted by the many, many demons swirling around her, each one grabbing at her. However, one becomes disgusted, saying that they can't eat her. She is already dead. Send her back. Charley is thrown back into the portal while she emerges into Dashwood's arms. Thinking that now he has a woman possessed by a demon, he tries to get her to speak, but the shock of everything causes Charley to faint. Dashwood sighs and orders her to be taken to his private chambers. Becky Lee strikes the fire alarm, and both she and Crane run. Crane leaves her to go find the doctor and hopefully fix his memories. Pargita, pushed and buffeted by guards and orderlies, finds Marcosius and demands to know where the fire is coming from. The demon sniffs the air and informs her that he can't sense any fires. She then asks about Dashwood, and he tells her that he is cuddling with his new bride. Furious, she runs off. Once out of earshot, Marcosius sees Becky Lee running towards him. He grabs her and the two hug, but she isn't fooled and tries to attack the demon, but he knocks her out. When Charlie awakens, she is lying on a big bed with Dashwood, thinking that she is a demon. But once he realizes that she isn't, he gets angry and demands to know why Hell has refused her. Resigned that he failed in obtaining a demon for a bride, Dashwood decides just to have Charlie as his own, until the Brigadier shows up to take Charlie away. Charlie, who doesn't know him, demands that she will choose where she will go, and her main mission is to find the doctor. Alistair tells her that he knows him, and the two head off, just as Pargita barges in, demanding an answer to Dashwood's betrayal. Dashwood orders her away, basically saying that he had never had interest in her to begin with, and demands to be left alone. He has a big broadcast to get ready for. Crane stands over the doctor, said that it had to come to this. The doctor claims that he isn't the doctor, and never was. He begs Crane not to turn the machine on again. Crane, feeling hungry to gain the rest of his supposed memories, goes over to the PSI machine and starts to input the original brain pattern. When nothing happens, the doctor reminds him that a normal brain must be hooked up in order to operate the machine. Crane does, and flips on the machine, but the doctor grabs him just as the influx of energy swallows them. When the light fades, Crane falls to the ground. The doctor gets up, checks on Crane's condition. The matrix of his memory and Crane's had to be restored, and he knew all along that he was the true doctor. When the TARDIS landed so close to him, the wave of vortex energy and the energies of the TARDIS itself caused their minds to scramble. Luckily, Crane got greedy. When Becky Lee wakes up, she is chained to a wall, upside down. Another suggestive scene in Doctor Who. Marcosius laughs when she tries to use her magic on him, but he reminds her that he feeds on fear. You can't use fear against him. She demands that she just be killed, but he says this is going to be more fun. When Charlie and the Brigadier find the lab, Alistair goes over to Crane thinking that he is the doctor. Charlie knows that he isn't, and rightly so. The real doctor emerges. Charlie hugs him and the Brigadier shakes his hand. The doctor then thanks him for looking after Charlie and for just being there. He knows that they'll be safer with Alistair around. Pargita interrupts Marcosius torturing Becky Lee, ordering him to make Dashwood fall in love with her. The demon tells her that he can't do that and that Pargita becomes enraged. Marcosius has an idea. She could take out her hatred on Becky Lee. He gets her to form a whip inside of her head, to imagine whipping the pretty young girl. Young girls don't deserve to live. You're not beautiful anymore. Why should they be, and not you? Pargita grabs a real whip from the wall and is about to use it on Becky Lee until the girl uses her magic to cause Pargita to see herself being whipped, to the point that the mental shock causes Pargita to have a heart attack and die. Marcosius kind of laughs about this and is surprised that she fell from just 3 strikes. The doctor gets Crane to wake up as he is needed to help with the ending in this madness. Crane, completely embarrassed, apologizes to the doctor for his abnormal behavior, but the doctor doesn't care. He asks Crane to find a way to restore the brain patterns to all the poor people and then destroy the cursed PSI machine. Crane has some knowledge of the machine's usage, but he can't grasp it. The doctor puts a hand to his temple and gives the man some of his knowledge. Crane is delighted, but the doctor warns him that it isn't permanent. The result will fade in half an hour. When he gets the machine to reverse its damage, it sucks Marcosius out of Pickering's body, allowing him to free Becky Lee. Dashwood, behind his jewel-encrusted podium, is confronted by the Doctor, Charlie, and the Brigadier. Slightly confused, Dashwood demands what is going on. The Doctor explains his plan to destroy the PSI machine and to reveal Dashwood as a fraud. Suddenly, Alistair takes an ill turn, collapsing upon the ground, telling the Doctor that he can't do what he used to do and wishes to be taken away from the camera lights. The studio man takes the old Brigadier inside, where he gets him a cup of water. The Brigadier is fascinated by the cameras and microphones. While that happens, the doctor asks if Dashwood feels that he won't be exposed after doing all of this just to get elected. Dashwood gives him way by saying that his followers are just fools, that they will do anything and everything he commands them to do. It dawns on him too late that he has just been broadcasted in front of the whole state. From up in the control room, the Brigadier waves down to them, completely fine. Dashwood, furious, knows that he can't be arrested, yet he flees from the building. He is stopped by Becky Lee and Senator Pickering, accompanied by several police officers. With a last-ditch attempt, he points the Trans D at them, and everyone stands back. The doctor tries to reason with the man, telling him that the device isn't from this world. Dashwood doesn't care and gets into his car and heads back to the Institute. The doctor realizes they have just left Crane alone. Crane is smashing the PSI machine when Marcosius breaks through a wall, outraged that this little human is trying to destroy everything that they have created. Crane has already caused the machine to start overloading when Dashwood and the others arrive. Dashwood orders Marcosius to be taken to hell, where Lucifer can turn him into a demon. Marcosius sighs and simply says, "Nope." The demon says to just use the Trans D, but the doctor warns him of using it so close to the PSI machine. He asks if Dashwood knew that he had allied himself with Cynovores. Marcosius is shocked that a human knows that name. The doctor replies that he has encountered their kind before. Charlie asks what they are, and the doctor replies that they are nothing more than cosmic parasites, feeding on emotions and inhabiting bodies to help bring down populations. Dashwood refuses to accept this, saying that his family has been worshipping demons for centuries. The doctor reminds him that his ancestors never caused a ritual where anything was summoned, except hangovers. Hell is just an abstract. Crane starts backing away as the PSI machine starts sparking. Angered, Dashwood fires the Trans D just as the machine explodes, sucking up Dashwood and Marcosius. The lab is completely destroyed, and Dashwood has vanished. The doctor is upset because they couldn't save those poor people in the lab. He suggests to Charlie that they leave. Charlie kisses the Brigadier and heads into the TARDIS. The doctor and the Brigadier shake hands, and Stewart tells the doctor to just hang on to that face a little longer. The two part ways, and the doctor takes control of the TARDIS. Inside, Charlie tells him that the demon said something about her, that she was dead. She asks to know what that meant, and the doctor pauses and then says, "No. Next time, but not now." Well, my friends, that is it. That is A Minuet in Hell. Again, I do apologize that this has taken about 8 months just to do, probably longer. Like I said, this is one of my favorite Doctor Who's top 10. It is with Nicholas Courtney's performance in it. It being long and just having a lot of fond memories of this one. It is a great story, and I will say that this was one of the first blocks that I had when collecting Doctor Who. Do not go on Amazon for this audio drama. It is, I believe the first time I saw this one on Amazon, it was over $60. When you can just go to eBay and find it for like $20. I don't know how it is now. I got this one almost a decade ago, so it's up there, and it might be one of the rare ones. Is it like Zagreus or Chimes of Midnight? I don't think so. So at this point, guys, there will be the standard voices through the Doctor Who Minuet in Hell that I usually do with this, but only 4 of them, because at this point I need to move on to Invaders of Mars, which I just listened to a little while ago. I have been going through some of the Time War and the rest of Stranded. A little disappointed with Stranded 3, but we'll get into that. But this is Mr. D, guys, of another episode of Who's Corner. Thank you so much, and subscribe. We will have more coming up soon. Okay, if I take the bed next to yours, kid? Hey. Hi. Lady in the Eleanor Roosevelt Memorial Fashion Statements. Like to guess what it means when I point my face at yours and make mouth noises? I beg your pardon? Oh, I'm sorry. Were you talking to me? Oh, no, I was looking forward to animated chat with the heating system. Wanted to ask for his memories of the Civil War. Come on, Charlie, strike a spark. Charlie? Who's Charlie? Uh-oh. I guess Charlie's the name of whoever you mugged to get that brooch. You know, the one with Charlie written on it? Oh, yes, of course. Charlie. Me, yes. Ginger Peachy. You, Charlie. Me, Becky Lee Kowalczyk. Me from Los Angeles. I take it your hometown tends more to red mailboxes and locals not shooting each other all that often? Hello? The lights are on, but no one's home again. Oh, Becky Lee. I don't know. Oh, Becky Lee, I don't know. You don't know where you come from? Becky Lee, I don't know anything. Just you and this room, and that's... Where are we, Becky Lee? How did we get here? You sit on the bed. I'll take it in easy stages. Okay, nighttime. Maybe 4 a.m. by now? Bad part of town. Harvest moon. Bats falling dead from air pollution. Girl in last year's clothes, or they would be if this were the prohibition. Kinda dazed. Suddenly, a big blue bus stops next to her. 2 guys get out, grab her, haul her aboard with half a dozen other girls. Perk crawling meets the mass market, right? Not right? Oh, my giddy aunt. They'd done the same to me a half an hour before. Shook 'em off and tried to run. One of them put a bullet through my hairdo, so I figured I'd just accept the lift after all. They shot at you? Why didn't you shout for help? Call a police officer or something like that. Charlie, he was the police. Oh, I see. We're in prison then? I don't think so. Could be wrong, but I suspect this establishment is a tribute to free enterprise. I'm sorry? I think this is a...
Out of my way, sonny boy! Come on there! Geez, ain't you got no respect for your elders? Oh, steady on, watch where you...
Oh, Senator Pickering. How are you?
What? Oh, yeah, met you yesterday, didn't I? Mr. Stewart, ain't it? From England.
Scotland, actually, Senator, and it's Lethbridge-Stewart.
Oh, is it now? Well, fella, we don't go much into that fancy double-breasted monikers this side of the herring pond.
No manners either, it seems.
What's that? What did you say? I said, how surprised I am to find you, of all men here, ready to hear the speech of a political opponent. What's that? Oh, yeah, opponent. Quite right, Pally. Look here, and I'll tell you a thing. And if you ever learn nothing else on your trip to this fine country, you just take this away with you. The biggest, cunningest, hornswogglest crook you'll ever encounter from sea to shining she is none other more than our host today, Brigham Elijah Dashwood III.
If you believe that, Senator, I wonder why you are here.
Always a chance somebody will shoot him. And here the ticking beef comes, large as life and 20 times as fat.
I am the doctor. I am the doctor. And what is the doctor? Can you tell me that? A bicardial biped of Gallifrey, a spatio-temporal rolling stone who's had more faces than a dog's had fleas, a wide-eyed idealist who renounced his Time Lord heritage centuries ago out of some misplaced revolutionary fervor and has never since had the maturity. Wait, how do you know that, Gideon? I've never told that to anyone. Charlie, Sam, Ace, Evelyn, Nissa, Romana, Sarah Jane, Jamie, Polly, Ian, Barbara, Susan. Dear Susan. How? How do you know all of this? I know everything there is to know about these matters. Haven't you worked it out yet? You aren't the doctor, my poor, mad, confused friend. No, I am. Well, Brigadier, here we are again. Yes, indeed. Every time I think I've seen the last of you, you pop up again. I like the new face, by the way. See if you can't hold on to it a little longer than some of your predecessors. There's a good chap. It's always a pleasure teaming up with you. Someone dependable, solid as a rock. You too, Doctor. You too. Now run along now. Disappear into the ether, or the sheriff will be wanting to question us both about your involvement, and that will keep us both in this country far longer than it is healthy for either of us. I'll see you around then, as they say in these parts. I'm sure of it, Doctor. Goodbye. Goodbye, Alistair. It was fun! Fun? Odd idea of fun you have, Doctor.